In Denmark, when winter comes, the sun can set before 4 in the afternoon.
Long stretches of darkness settle over the country for months at a time.
Most places would call that a hard season to get through. Danes call it their favorite time of year, because darkness, it turns out, is when a very particular Danish habit shines brightest. Candles get lit, blankets come out, friends are invited over for absolutely no reason at all. There's a word for this whole way of being, and it doesn't fully translate into English. Pronounced roughly Hygge, is one of the most beloved ideas in Denmark. It's often translated as coziness, but that barely scratches the surface. It's less a mood and more a small, deliberate choice made again and again. And somehow, this quiet winter habit helped make Denmark one of the happiest countries on Earth. To understand Hygge, you have to understand what it deliberately leaves out.
Hygge isn't about luxury. It rarely involves anything expensive at all.
A candle costs almost nothing. A blanket, a cup of tea, an old friend cost even less. What it asks for instead is full, unhurried presence. Phones get put away. Work gets left at the door. The moment gets all the attention.
A Danish author once distilled Hygge into 10 simple ideals, almost like a manifesto.
Atmosphere, presence, pleasure, comfort, togetherness, gratitude, harmony, shelter, and 2 ideals that might surprise people the most: equality and truce. Hygge is meant to be a meeting of equals, whatever anyone's job title outside the room. And truce means exactly what it sounds like: leave arguments and hot debates at the door. A Hygge gathering isn't the place to relitigate politics or old family disagreements.
It's protected time, deliberately kept gentle, warm, and easy.
Even the lighting gets careful attention. Harsh overhead lights are considered distinctly un-Hygge. Danes are said to burn more candles per person than almost anywhere else in Europe.
Soft, low, flickering light does something bright bulbs simply can't.
It slows a room down, and somehow it slows the people inside it down too. None of this sounds revolutionary. That might be exactly the point. The word Hygge is old, but it isn't originally Danish at all. Language historians trace it back to an old Norwegian word, hygge.
Hygge meant something close to comfort or to soothe.
It's even distantly related to the English word hug. The word entered Danish writing sometime around the late 1700s.
Over the following centuries, it quietly grew into something bigger than a single word.
It became a description of an entire national approach to hard weather and long nights. Denmark's climate isn't gentle. Winters are cold, wet, and famously short on daylight. Rather than fight that darkness, Danish culture built an entire ritual around softening it. If the outside world is going to be difficult, the inside world gets made deliberately warm.
A researcher at Copenhagen's Happiness Research Institute has spent years studying exactly this.
His work links Danish contentment directly to these small, repeated moments of coziness. Not one grand vacation a year, but dozens of small evenings like this one. A pot of coffee, a homemade cake, friends staying long after the food is gone.
Hygge treats those small evenings as genuinely essential, not as something extra.
It's scheduled, protected, and taken seriously, the way other cultures protect a big holiday. Even Danish workplaces have started borrowing the concept deliberately. Office Hygge might mean shared cake on a Friday or a softly lit break room. The idea being, contentment at work isn't separate from contentment anywhere else.
It all draws from the exact same well of warmth and unhurried attention.
What began as a simple word for comfort became something close to a national philosophy. And it never once needed anything expensive to make it real. In 2016, Hygge suddenly exploded far beyond Denmark's own borders. The word landed on the shortlist for one major dictionary's word of the year. Bookshops abroad filled with titles promising the secret of Danish happiness. Candle companies and blanket brands enthusiastically cashed in on the trend. For a while, Hygge risked becoming just another word for buying cozy things. But most Danes will tell you that was always a slight misunderstanding of the idea. You can absolutely have Hygge with nothing but a candle and someone you trust. The blankets and candles were never really the point. They were just props.
The real ingredient was always people, presence, and permission to slow all the way down.
Interestingly, Hygge isn't only reserved for winter, though that's its most famous season.
Summer Hygge exists too. Picnics, bike rides, long evenings that refuse to be rushed.
What stays constant across every season is the deliberate slowing down itself.
Even Danish television schedules a version of this. Relaxed, unhurried evening programming.
Some Danish shows are famous internationally for their slow, meditative, Hygge-like pacing. It turns out an entire culture can build its rhythms around a single comforting word. And the rest of the world, during its own uncertain years, took real notice. So step back and consider what Hygge is actually protecting. Not comfort for comfort's sake, but time itself kept intentionally free of hurry. In much of the world, slowing down is treated as something you have to earn.
Rest gets scheduled around what's left over after every task is finished. Hygge quietly reverses that order. The slow evening isn't leftover time, it's the goal.
Everything else gets built carefully around protecting it.
There's something disarming about a culture whose signature value is simply softness.
Not achievement, not ambition, just warmth, presence, and good company by candlelight. And it doesn't require good weather, a big budget, or a special occasion. It only requires a willingness to actually stop and be somewhere, fully. You don't need Danish winters or a hand-knit blanket to borrow the idea. Just a candle, if you have one, and someone worth spending an unhurried hour with.
Leave the phone in the other room. Leave the arguments for another day entirely.
Let the evening be exactly as small and quiet as it wants to be. Denmark didn't invent comfort. Almost every culture has some version of it. What Denmark did was decide that comfort deserved its own word, taken seriously.
A whole country, gathering in the dark, deliberately choosing warmth over hurry.
Maybe that's the real secret behind the happiness. Some things are worth simply slowing down for.